investigate. Fox 8 News starts now.
Walter Reed was a towering figure in North Shore politics for 30 years. While he displayed a no-nonsense anti-crime image, a jury says Reed was committing crimes himself. An FBI investigation that began after a series of stories by Fox 8 News ends today. Walter Reed and his son Stephen are guilty of federal corruption charges.
Good evening, I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Kim Holden. Walter Reed says he'll appeal his conviction after a jury finds him guilty of 18 out of 19 corruption charges.
Meg Gatto has the story.
It took the jury only 4.5 hours to reach their verdict.
I've been a lawyer 40 years. Usually a fast verdict goes in favor of the defendant. But yeah, I was surprised.
The former Washington and St. Tammany Parish DA found guilty of wire fraud, conspiracy, mail fraud, and 1 count of money laundering. Walter Reed was acquitted of the 2nd count of money laundering. Reed used campaign finances for personal expenses and didn't report income he received from St. Tammany Parish Hospital for legal services. His son, 44-year-old Stephen Reed, was also acquitted of the 1 count of money laundering. The jury found Stephen guilty, however, of conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering.
Surprised, disappointed, obviously. We believe that there's a lot more that the courts are going to have to hear, and this will be an appeal.
Inside the courtroom, neither Reed showed any emotion as the verdict was read. Minutes later, tearing up while asked about his son, Walter Reed said Stephen's well-being is his biggest concern.
You know, I was a DA for 30 years, and I can't ever remember of taking a kid out of graduate school and putting him in prison. I mean, to me, that's not right.
Both Reeds plan on appealing their convictions.
No, I'm disappointed, of course, but it ain't over till the fat lady sings.
The Reeds only had a handful of supporters in the courtroom with them as the verdicts were read. The father and son will be sentenced September 15th. Lee?
All right, Meg, U.S. Attorney Kenneth Polite released a statement after the verdict, thanking the jury for its careful deliberations. He said the defendant's actions were not innocent mistakes, they were crimes. He went on to write the community is sick of hearing excuses from public officials who violate the law.
Our legal analyst Joe Responti says Walter Reed could possibly get 5 to 8 years in prison. He says this could also rewrite the rule book on what politicians spend campaign money on.
I think that there's a lot of politicians, elected officials out there taking a bath with a Q-tip right now because they're really worried about keeping everything real clean, because I know that all of them have done something. Some of them have done something with their campaign finance money that is not kosher according to this judgment.
Reed's trial lasted 9 days. The prosecution spent 6 days calling 57 witnesses. The defense called 14 witnesses over 3 days. That included Walter Reed taking the stand himself.
Walter Reed became district attorney for St. Tammany and Washington parishes in 1984. He decided not to seek a 6th term in office in 2014 after a series of Fox 8 and NOLA.com investigations into his financial transactions.
Our investigation into Walter Reed began in February of 2014. In May of that year, we got our hands on an invoice. It led Walter Reed's campaign to pay his son Stephen's company nearly $30,000 to bartend at a fundraiser. But our investigation showed the numbers just didn't add up.
Well, I wish I could turn these kind of invoices into my clients. I mean, yeah. I mean, so who's going to check it? Daddy, here's my invoice, you know, give me my allowance.
The invoice showed Stephen Reed's company, Liquid Bread, charged the campaign $12 a person for beverages and liquor. It had a handwritten notation that it was okay, per Walter.
I guess that's one way to keep your son employed. One way to keep your family employed, right, is to use your campaign finance money to help their business.
In a party, the most I've ever made was $1,000.
Travis Sanders has been mixing drinks for 15 years. Here's a look at his reaction when we showed him that invoice.
That's what they made.
Get out of here. Wait, really? No. No.
Walter Reed held that fundraiser at the Castine Center in Mandeville. We got a copy of the Castine Center's entire folder for the event, where they detail and document the caterer, the band, the production companies, and even list the bartenders.
Wow.
That folder had no mention of Stephen Reed or his company, Liquid Bread.
So what is Stephen Reed doing for this $29,000? I guess is the big question, $64,000 question.
You can see all of our investigations into Walter and Stephen Reed on fox8live.com. Just click on the Fox 8 Investigates tab. Jefferson Parish deputies search for a man they say robbed a shopper at gunpoint in the Target parking lot in Metairie.
Ryan Nakian talked exclusively to the victim, who says the robbery happened when the store was full of other shoppers.
In broad daylight, armed with a gun and ready to use it.
This felt normal, nothing was out the ordinary, and it just happened so fast.
Police say 20-year-old Lasan Manchin lurked through the Target parking lot at the Clearview Mall Friday, waiting to take advantage of shoppers. And around 5 o'clock, the man we're only identifying as Brandon says Manchin targeted him.
And he comes up to me really close, but I'm thinking his car was the one right next to me. So I didn't think anything of it. And he pulls out a firearm from his hip or his pocket, I don't know where. And I already know what's going on. And my life is not worth money or whatever I have on me. So I gave him what I had and he ran.
The victim says he parked here near the edge of the parking lot, near the intersection of Clearview and Vets, because of how packed it was. As you can imagine, on a Friday afternoon, the mall and Target have a ton of people in it. And he says other people even watched him try to chase Manchin down and even witnessed him getting robbed.
I chased after him, pulled out my firearm, and just told him, hey, stop. I told him I would shoot, but obviously I didn't. We actually ran right in front of Target from right here. I chased him all the way to in front of Target. He got into a getaway car and almost ran a young lady over.
Brandon nearly shot at Manchin in order to get his money back, but because of his firearm training, because of the amount of people in the area, he didn't shoot.
I didn't want to put anyone in danger and I let it go, but I made sure I remember the license plate in its face.
And as we showed Brandon the picture of Manchin, he says there's no doubt it's the same man who robbed him.
I didn't even realize you guys had this picture until just now. And I was like, I just sent that picture to my detective actually, and I was like, hey, this is 110% our guy. And he was like, yes, we know we've been looking for him all day. So I just hope they catch him.
Police have not identified the people in the getaway car. Investigators say Manchin lives in LaPlace. If you have any information about him, contact the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. Kim.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Lawmakers try to impose new cost control measures on the TOPS program as they try to come up with a way to pay for the nearly $300 million program. The State House today passed a bill that would lock in the TOPS payment rate at next year's tuition level. That would mean if tuition goes up, students would have to foot more of the bill for their college education. Lawmakers would have to vote if they want to increase the TOPS money in the future. Governor Edwards has said he will sign the bill into law.
The heavy rain this weekend caused a downpour in a local grocery store. According to our partners at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, customers and employees at Dornax in Metairie were caught off guard when it started raining in the store's liquor section. A spokesman for Dornax said store employees used garbage cans to catch some of the rain, then closed off a few aisles so they could clean up the mess. He says only a few ceiling tiles were heavily damaged.
The city works to come up with a plan to fill a giant hole in Canal Street. The street gave way Friday near Harrah's Casino when a tunnel below it collapsed. Inspectors blamed rotting wooden beams in the tunnel. The city says plans are being developed to repair the underground infrastructure and roadway. That hole is blocked off, and the city officials are asking people to stay away from it. The area could be closed for months.
The state Supreme Court decides Tom Benson was competent when he ousted his estranged family from having anything to do with the Saints, Pelicans, and his other businesses. The Supreme Court refused to hear an appeal today by Benson's daughter, Renee, and his grandchildren, Rita and Ryan LeBlanc. The trio maintains that Benson was in a state of mental decline when he decided to leave control of his businesses to his wife, Gail.
Investigators arrest a man accused of murdering his girlfriend's daughter. Daniel Beckley was booked into the St. Charles Parish Jail in connection with the death of 16-year-old Jorian White. He's accused of taking White from their Kenner home just over a week ago, killing her and dumping her body in a drainage canal in St. Charles Parish. Beckley is a longtime live-in boyfriend of White's mother, Michelle Price.
She is a caring mother. Any suggestion to the contrary, that she is not fully caring and totally dedicated to her daughter's safety, is ill-advised, and it was erroneous. We believe if there was anything she could have done or have known ahead of time to prevent her daughter from meeting this horrific early end to her young life, she would have done so.
The sheriff also didn't say how White was killed. Beckley was booked with second-degree murder and obstruction of justice.
Police want help finding a man who burglarized a home after using a cinder block to smash a window. Surveillance video from April 29th shows the man throwing the cinder block through the window of the home on Redfish Street in New Orleans East, then running away. However, a short time later, he returns with gloves, climbs in through the shattered window. Police didn't say what he stole from the home.
New information tonight about a man who drove across Delgado's campus on a stolen lawnmower. The man stole the lawnmower from Delgado on April 22nd, but police say the machine actually belongs to Goodwill. Police say the man drove the lawnmower from Orleans Avenue to General Diaz, but they're not sure where he headed after that. Anyone who can help find the man or the lawnmower should call police.
New closures went into effect today along North Rampart as part of the streetcar construction project. Crews shut down 2 intersections at Toulouse and St. Louis. The new lines taking shape. The RTA says crews are almost finished with the work. They expect the project to be complete by mid to late summer.
It took Tom Benson a long time to win a Super Bowl and 3 years to even make the NBA playoffs.
But this Saturday in Louisville, he could make horse racing history. Garland Gillen has the story from Churchill Downs.
In 1985, Tom Benson bought the New Orleans Saints, but the black and gold didn't perform on the field, going 5-11. With GMB Racing, it's quite the opposite. His first group of 3-year-olds produced 2 qualifiers in the Super Bowl of horse racing, the Kentucky Derby.
There are 30,000 foals born every year, 30,000 horses that are going to get one chance when they're 3-year-old to run the Kentucky Derby if they're good enough. I bought 1 colt for the Bensons, and he's going to be in the starting gate on that Saturday. That's remarkable in itself. But when you start looking at the major players in our business that spend millions and millions of dollars at the Keeneland sales and at the yearling sales throughout the country, we're talking about people that spend, $50 million plus, and they're buying what truly are the first-round draft picks, the horses that have the best pedigree, they look the best, they're physically the most imposing, and they're not here. They want to be here, but they can't get it done.
The feat accomplished by the Bensons isn't unheard of, according to officials at the Derby, but it's still extremely rare.
They attended the Derby a few years ago, got together with their friends, which would be the trainers of Tom Amos, Dallas Stewart, and Al Stahl, and went to the sales, bought some horses, and next thing you know, they've got 2 horses, not 1, 2 horses in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby. It's quite a remarkable feat.
The next big day for the Bensons and GMB Racing is Wednesday. The post positions for the 20 horses will be unveiled in the Kentucky Derby draw. From Louisville, Garland Gillen, Fox 8 Sports.
And we'll have reports from Kentucky all week on Fox 8 leading up to the big race Saturday.
A loss in tomorrow's Indiana primary could be a sharp blow to Ted Cruz's hope of keeping Donald Trump from getting the delegates needed for the Republican nomination.
Candidates on both sides are on the attack ahead of the vote. Mary Maloney has more.
Demonstrators gather outside Donald Trump's Indiana rally. But Trump is counting on the crowds being on his side.
Indiana is very important because if I win, that's the end of it.
According to a Wall Street Journal NBC News Marist poll, Trump has a 15-point lead over Ted Cruz. The Texas senator refusing to say if he'll support Trump as the Republican nominee.
I'm not willing to give up my support for life.
Trump supporters clashing with Cruz.
America is a better country without you.
Bernie Sanders taking a page from Trump's playbook, blasting the Democratic primary process.
When we talk about a rigged system, it's also important to understand how the Democratic convention works.
Indiana polls show a tight race. In the Wall Street Journal NBC News Marist survey, Clinton holds a 4-point lead.
I'm trying to say, look,
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do so you can hold me accountable.
Sanders isn't stopping. His campaign accusing Clinton of running a money laundering scheme, citing a Politico report that just 1% of the $61 million raised through the Hillary Victory Fund, meant to be shared with state parties, has actually been sent to them. The Clinton campaign calling the attack desperate, but Trump is using Sanders' words to pounce.
Bernie Sanders said she shouldn't be allowed to run, that she's not capable. And you know, what he said is incredible.
I'm Mary Maloney reporting.
We'll bring you the results from the primary and what it means for the campaigns tomorrow night on Fox 8 News.
People on shore and on board cheered as a U.S. cruise ship pulled into Havana today. The Carnival cruise ship, which left for Miami, is the first U.S. cruise ship to visit Cuba in nearly 40 years because of restrictions following the Cold War. The eased travel restrictions are one of many changes between the U.S. and Cuba since President Obama announced that he planned to reestablish ties with the communist nation. Step into the Pinkberry frozen yogurt store on Canal Street and you'll find a truly sweet success story.
Would you like to try some? Come on over.
Pinkberry General Manager Tawana Lewis is a one-woman whirlwind, but her road to running this yogurt shop included battling her demons, facing down her past, and saying yes to life again.
You know, it's almost like running to a brick wall. You're going to end up with stitches every time. So now it's time for those stitches to go away.
Greg Adeline brings us a story of sweet recovery tomorrow night on Fox 8 News at 10.
Private insurance companies across the country try to dissuade people from going to the emergency room. Most do it through high copays. Tonight, we show you what happens when there's no incentive for cheaper care and no education about those costs. And it's costing you millions of dollars. Here's our new investigative story, Medical Waste. From gunshot wounds to heart attacks, when people fight for their lives, an emergency room can be their last chance for help.
It's clearly abuse.
But some Louisianians go to the ER for hangnails, blisters, warts, even sunburn.
This is outrageously expensive.
And these ER trips have a catch. You're paying for it.
When someone goes to an ER to have a wart removed, or to talk about their insomnia, that takes taxpayer money away from low-income people who really need it.
State and federal money fund the Medicaid program. Our review of 1 year worth of Medicaid emergency room trips found tens of thousands of apparent non-emergency visits.
It's all taxpayer money.
Medicaid recipients visited the ER for fussy infants, throat pain, postnasal drip, patients feigning illness, even routine health exams.
I mean, all of these things could be treated at about 1/5 of the cost at a private clinic. And that's just a fact.
In a best practice, those patients would be treated in a clinical setting, not an ER setting.
Because it's cheaper.
It's much cheaper.
Take a typical upper respiratory infection. Jefferson Parish Coroner Jerry Satanovich is also the chief medical officer of 13 area urgent cares. Satanovich says a physician in an office can treat that infection for $75 to $125. In an urgent care, the cost $100 to $150, and Satanovich says an ER cost could be between $600 and $1,000.
Significant difference. Sure, absolutely. You know, but the ER's got a lot of costs to be open 24 hours a day, fully staffed, 365 days a year.
A bill filed in this legislative session would add an $8 copay to any Medicaid recipient who visits the ER for a non-emergency.
If you don't have an emergency, you go to an ER, you're going to have to pay for part of that care. So we support measures that help individuals take responsibility for using ERs when it's not an emergency.
That bill has stalled in the legislature.
The poorest of the poor can't afford a copay. I think what we do is they get better access, then we educate them so that they can understand that the times that they have to go to the emergency room has to be an emergency.
According to the Legislative Fiscal Office, last year 131,000 Medicaid ER visits were for non-emergency services. What's unclear is the actual cost to taxpayers.
And until you put the message out and educate them, you're going to continue to have that to happen.
According to state leaders, part of that education should include stopping some hospitals from enticing patients. Some have an app or a website that displays current ER wait times.
Listen, if you really have a true emergency, or do you have time to look at an app and figure out who has the quickest wait time? No, you're going to go to the nearest facility and you're going to get triaged, and if you're really sick, you're going to get in quickly. So, there shouldn't be a reason for these apps.
At this time of budget tightening, where every dollar truly counts,
we have a scarce amount of resources.
We found one patient who went to the ER 120 times in 1 year.
We have chronic abusers.
Sometimes this patient went 3 times in 1 day. Most of the time, the reason, abdominal pain.
We need to establish a database so that emergency rooms talk to each other across the state so we can identify this relatively small universe of chronic abusers and try to manage their care better.
These are millions of taxpayer dollars spent on acne, sprains, coughs, and headaches that could instead go to people who really need the help for real-life emergencies that could mean the difference between life or death.
This is something both conservatives and liberals ought to agree to. When people abuse emergency rooms using taxpayer dollars, obviously it costs money and is an insult to every taxpayer in this state, but it also takes away resources from poor people who really, really need the help.
The State Department of Health and Hospitals says when Medicaid is expanded, they expect those ER numbers to go down. The Public Affairs Research Council says non-medical ER visits, while still a problem, have been reduced over the last 10 years.
Well, when you're a favorite to win the Kentucky Derby, your approach during Derby week could be a bit different than most.
Juan Kincaid takes us back to Churchill Downs coming up.
And I have a drier weather authority forecast on the way. We'll talk about 2 cold fronts coming this week. I'll have the very latest.
Now, your weather authority forecast from David Bernard.
Things are definitely looking up tonight. In fact, we started trending drier during the day today in Viper tonight. Nice and quiet. And in fact, we're going to put old Viper away, it looks like, for several days because we have cold front number 1 halfway through the state. Look at this. Dallas 56 tonight, low 60s, and North Louisiana. That's going to filter into our area later on tonight, and you'll begin to feel the change as early as tomorrow morning. Northerly winds taking over tomorrow morning through the midday hours. In fact, we're not going to be in the 80s by noon. We're going to still be in the 70s, and it's going to start to feel a lot better with decreasing clouds tomorrow and increasing amounts of sun. We're still muggy tonight. There's the front. That heads south tomorrow. Skies are going to clear behind it with sunny skies developing during the day. The rain is over. Now, as we go ahead into Wednesday, here comes a stronger cold front. Out ahead of it, we're going to see lots of sunshine. There won't be any weather associated with this front. There might be 1 or 2 clouds, and that's going to be just about it. On Thursday, that pushes down. More cool air comes in, high pressure, and you guessed it, even more sunshine. Tonight, drying out, but still humid. A bit more breeze by morning. Still very mild, 60s and even some low 70s hanging on south of the lake. Tomorrow, much nicer, decreasing clouds, a drier breeze, less humid. Highs 77 to 81. Are we calling for rain tomorrow? No. Are we calling for rain the rest of the week? Not at all. It looks like we may see wall-to-wall sunshine right through the weekend of Mother's Day. Look at that. We'll warm back into the 80s, and check out the lows we're expecting. 50s north of the lake, maybe a few 50s south of the lake. Friday morning, guys, 49 north of the lake. Can you believe it? Into the first week of May. Not bad.
Wow.
So, quite a change from what we've seen. Yeah.
Bundle up.
If you put them all away, you're in trouble.
Not quite bundle up, but
no scarves and mittens.
Some people in New Orleans,
you never
this
know.
is cold. That's cold for us, right?
It's possible.
All right,
yes,
David.
Thanks, David. Some local restaurants take home some big honors.
Who says the best new restaurant in the U.S. is right in your backyard? Coming up.
Fox 8 Sports is brought to you by AutoSmart. Be smart, buy smart.
Depending on the horse, Monday at Churchill Downs varies. Mo Tom and Tom's Ready kept it light on track Monday, 48 hours after their major workday on Saturday. It's how trainer Tom Amoss likes to operate during Derby week. It was a different approach for Louisiana Derby winner Gunrunner, who's one of the favorites in Louisville. Steve Asmussen's contender used Monday as its final hard push. They'll back off going forward.
The most important thing after a horse's last major work, which Tom did 2 days ago, is to see how he responds to it. What's he like on the track? Is his stride the same? Is he showing good enthusiasm? Is he the horse you had before you put that last final major breeze in him? And he is, so that's all really good.
You want him to be bright, alert. You want him to continue to train hard, have a good edge on them where they're not too over the top, but, you know, they're just ready to go. And you know, keep it basic, but just kind of watch for little things that maybe you can improve through the week.
It was a tale of 2 trips to 18 at Zurich today. First by Jamie Lovemark, who could have ended things with a birdie on 18 in regulation, though he'd leave it short. Brian Stewart took advantage on the second sudden death hole, also on 18. How about the approach? Just like we all do it. He was on the green. He didn't make a mistake, tapping in for the Zurich Classic win. It's his first career PGA championship. Saints first-round pick Sheldon Rankins will wear number 99 this season, becoming the 15th Saint to do so. And once he takes the field, he'll become the first to play in that number since 2012. Once he takes the field. Zephyrs baseball tonight. They're on the road right now in Oklahoma City. They lead it in the bottom of the 10th. 3-2 is the score. We hope they hang on and get a win to open that series on the road.
All right, thanks a lot, Juan. 3 New Orleans chefs bring home big honors from the annual James Beard Awards in Chicago.
Yeah, it was a big night. Shia on Magazine Street won the award for Best New Restaurant. In October, it was also named Esquire Magazine's Best New Restaurants in America. Right across the street, chef and owner of La Petite Grocery, Justin DeVilliers, won Best Chef South. And the owner of Dookie Chase, Leah Chase, was given the Lifetime Achievement Award. The 93-year-old says she got into a fight one time with President Obama about gumbo while serving him here in New Orleans. Well-deserved award.
Yes, very nice.
All right. I know who won that fight.
Yeah, really.
Definitely.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Our next newscast starts 4:30 in the morning.
With the Fox 8 mobile app, you'll never be without Fox 8 News. Sign up at fox8live.com for text and email alerts during breaking news and weather. Sponsored by Egan Insurance. Family to family, business to business since 1954. Fox 8 is proudly locally owned.